Okay, guys, so we're going to do a recap on Pythagorean theorem, but this time we are including some word problems. So it's really important to make sure we read through the word problem and figure out what kind of picture we have to draw. So just a reminder that Pythagorean theorem is a squared, b squared, c squared. And so we need to make sure we draw our picture and figure out where A, B, and C are. So the first problem here says Mrs. Fogiel bought the new iPhone 11 and knew that it was 6.1-inch screen. But did you know that screens are measured by the diagonal? Mrs. Fogiel measured the width and found that it is 3 inches wide, but was using a broken ruler and couldn't measure the height. How tall is the iPhone? So before I do anything, I know that I need to draw an iPhone, but I'm not perfect. So I'm just gonna draw, that's a weird looking iPhone. Just gonna draw myself a little rectangle. And now I need to figure some things out. So I have to label this. And I know that I have a 6.1-inch diagonal. So whichever way you draw your diagonal, you're just gonna draw one here. I know that this is 6.1. Then it says that it is 3 inches wide. So this width down here is 3. So I know that I need to use triangles, and somehow I have this rectangle. But I can see that I have a triangle right here. And it says we need to find the height. So if I wanted to label this with a squared, b squared, and c squared, my right angle is here, so I know that that makes 6.1 my c. My a and b, or my legs, don't matter. It doesn't matter which one I use, either the 3 or the x. So I can set this up as 3 squared plus x squared equals 6.1. If you're using the notes paper that we gave you guys before, you could also write it as x squared equals 6.1 squared minus 3 squared. Whichever way you do it, you're going to end up with the same answer. So I can then take the square root of this whole statement. Let me do that real quick in my calculator. And I end up with x equals 5.31. But I want to go back and make sure I've answered the question. So it just says, how tall is the iPhone? So I can say the iPhone is 5.31 inches tall. And I know that I've answered my question. So I have one more example for us to do. This time it's Miss Cook. So Miss Cook went camping, rustic style, with a bedsheet and her clothesline in the backyard. If the clothesline was 48 inches off the ground and she used a king-size bedsheet that is 108 inches long, how wide was her tent? We want to assume that the tent is equally spaced on both sides. So again, I want to draw myself a picture. So I just imagine that she has a tent made out of a sheet. And this tent is hanging on the clothesline, so the clothesline's up here at the top. And that means that our clothesline was 48 inches off the ground. So now here's another interesting thing. So if the bed sheet is 108 inches long, I know that this is my bed sheet. But that's not one side being 108. So I need to take 108 and divide by 2. So I have a 54-inch diagonal on both sides. And the question says, how wide was her tent? So I need to know this whole length. But I can't really do that if my right triangle is just right here. So first thing I'm going to do is find this length. So using that same strategy, I have 54 squared plus x squared equals 48 squared. I can set this up as x squared equals 48 squared minus 54 squared. Oh, sorry, I wrote that backwards. Let's try that again. So I have 48 squared plus x equals 54 squared. So I can write that as x squared equals 54 squared minus 48 squared. I knew I had it wrong because I was going to subtract a smaller number and then a bigger number, and it would have given me a negative answer, and negative answers don't really work here. So the last step, square root. Let's do that in our calculator. And we get 24.74 inches. But is that my final answer? I want to know how wide the tent was. So this small spot here is 24.74, but I want to get the whole distance. So I'm going to take that number and I'm going to multiply it by 2. And I get 49.48 inches. So I can say the tent is 49.48 inches wide. All right, so that's my final answer. Thanks, guys.